Well, the Oscars are expected to take on a very different look this year with capacity scaled back in a big way. That hasn't stopped ABC, though, which is, of course, broadcasting the ceremony for charging premium ad dollars. Let's bring in Yahoo Finance's Allie Canal for this week's Fame and Fortune segment. And Allie, one thing we should point out, because we've gotten so used to these remote award ceremonies, but the Oscars have at least come forward and said there's going to be no Zoom involved. What's the concern around the ad dollars? Because that would seem to suggest there's going to be a bigger audience.
Right. And that's really what the question is here. It's going to be a weird year for the Oscars, but they're still reportedly seeking $2 million for a 30-second ad spot. That's according to Variety. And if you think that's a lot of money, it kind of is. Historically speaking, Oscar ad spots have gone anywhere from around $1.8 million to a little over $2 million. According to Adweek last year, there were some ads that went up to $2.8 million. And it's just crazy to think of this amount, especially considering Oscar viewership has been on the decline in recent years. For example, last year, ratings hit a record low of just over 23 million. That was 20% off the levels that we saw in 2019. And you're seeing on your screen now, those are some of the award shows that aired during the pandemic. And the results are pretty disheartening. You have the Grammys. They clocked in just 8.8 million viewers, the smallest audience on record, and a decline of 53% from 2020's 18.7 million viewers. Then you have the Golden Globes, even worse, just 6.9 million, 63% less than what the show had garnered the previous year. And then in last place, we have the Emmys with only 6.1 million viewers, down 12%. So if these COVID era trends continue, we're going to see a viewership decline that's even worse than the lows experienced last year. Of course, the Oscars, they're acutely aware of this. They do not want to have any Zoom fatigue happen during the show. And that's why they decided ultimately to ban Zoom. Now that's already facing backlash from some nominees. They're reportedly going to have people quarantine 5 to 14 days. Now, there are some actors that are working on other projects, and in order for them to quarantine, they would have to completely shut down sets. So that's one concern. Another is the fact that these nominees are broad. Two names that come to mind are Emerald Fennell and Chloe Zhao. They are both nominated for Best Director. And if either one of them were to win, it would be an historic moment in the Oscars. And if there is no Zoom, if they're not able to get over to the United States because of various COVID protocols, they unfortunately will not be able to deliver that acceptance speech. So it's going to be an interesting show. I'm curious to see how it goes. They definitely want it to be more in person. They don't want it to be all over Zoom, which is really what we saw with the Golden Globes. But we'll have to see what the ultimate product is like on April 25th when the broadcast debuts.
Well, Allie, let's talk about streaming, because not only have they seen a big boost in a lot of these award ceremonies, but we're also seeing Disney Plus officially get a buck more expensive. And it comes on the same day that Discovery is absolutely getting shellacked here, as Wells Fargo cuts their price target, saying that some of the steam is coming out of that streaming play. But when you look at all the money that it's going to cost to pay for these things, it's getting almost as expensive as cable if you rack up Disney, AT&T, Netflix, Amazon, all these things. So talk to me about how the streaming war is shaping up now.
Yeah, Bloomberg had a piece saying that basically if you bundled everything, it'd be almost $100 with all of these various streaming services. But Disney did have a few things that happened this week. You mentioned that price increase going from $7 a month to $8 a month. This was something that we expected. They made this announcement during the Investor Day meeting in December. But today, the official charges will take place. Now, Disney, they have a lot going for them right now. They've reached that 100 million subscriber mark. They are very strong in this streaming space. If you compare Disney to some of the other streamers out there price-wise, they are still very competitive. The standard plan at Netflix, the most popular plan, that's at $14 a month. And then you have Disney at $8, which is relatively cheaper. I also think when these streamers up their price game, investors, analysts, they largely like this. They think it shows the pricing power. I know anytime Netflix has done this, the stock ends up flying off the shelves because people are like, hey, Netflix is able to pull this off. And I think Disney is getting there. Investors are certainly bullish on them. But this is not the only announcement that they had this week. They also made some very significant changes to their film release strategy. One being Black Widow. That movie was supposed to debut in theaters in May. It will now debut in July, but it will also be available the same day that it hits theaters on Disney Plus as that premium PVOD offering that we saw with Mulan for $30 a pop. This is obviously very disappointing for theaters. They were really relying on a strong summer blockbuster season. Those Marvel movies, they normally perform very well at the blockbuster. So it not the blockbuster, the box office, I should say. So it shows a little hesitation on the part of Disney that they don't think consumers are going to be ready to go back to the theater at this point in the pandemic. Disney also made the announcement that Cruella, that film starring Emma Stone, will be available on Disney Plus the same day that it's in theaters. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens to theaters this summer. It was something that they really wanted to happen, and now I just am not sure if they're going to have enough content, and I should say exclusive content, to lure those people into the theaters again.
Well, at the very least, people will be able to watch some new stuff. It's been a tough go in getting a lot of those big blockbusters you're talking about. But Allie, Canal, appreciate you bringing us that in this week's Fame and